Welcome aboard, everybody. Dr. Glidden here with another live edition of the Dr. Glidden Show. Aren't you happy you tuned in? Well, you're going to be happier if you check out the live stream. We are high-tech, baby, all of the way, every day. Check out the live video stream, the Dr. Glidden Show. .tv, the Dr. Glidden Show.tv. Check it out. Currently, there are 38 people watching via YouTube. And in the worldwide live chat, 42 people from all around the world. Lisa from Indiana, Kathy from Pennsylvania, JR, Candace, Amos, Bonnie in Southport, Bob in Amarillo, Toronto, Beata from Toronto is in the house, Dee Dee is in the house, JJ, Jack Bolton from New York, Linda Johansson, Lou Gallardy, Kay in Nashville, Michael from Portugal, Magumi, Domo, arigato, Magumi. Michael from Kansas, Socia in San Mateo, Vicky Joe, Brenda, Tyler, got lots of people here, not the least of which Mike Phillip, who holds down the fort for me every Friday. So it's all over the news, ladies and gentlemen. Brittany Maynard, assisted suicide advocate, ends her life. Ooh. Brittany Maynard, 29 years old, stage 4 glioblastoma, which is fancy schmancy doctor talk for I have no freaking idea what that is. I have no freaking idea what causes it. But here, I'm going to give you a treatment that's going to kill you and that's going to bankrupt you and, you know, in the best possible situation, well, it's not going to work. 5-year survivalship on brain cancer is less than 33.4% with conventional medical therapeutics. That's after $1 trillion of research, more or less, over 3 decades. So everybody is all over the news now. The question that everybody's asking is about assisted suicide. And, you know, when does life begin and when does life end and who has the right to end their life? I mean, what's the deal? Right? This is what it's about, assisted suicide. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Well, it's the wrong question to ask. The correct question to ask is why, after $1 trillion of research, are there approximately going to be 23,380 new cases of brain cancer in 2014? That's just in the United States. Estimated deaths in 2014 from brain cancer, 14,320. That's a 2.4% of all cancer deaths, and that's an increase in 1.4% from last year. So brain cancer incidence is increasing. And only 33% of brain cancer victims, brain cancer sufferers, whatever terminology is politically correct in your database, 33% are alive after 5 years, and we don't want to even talk about the quality of life inside of those 5 years of the people who go for conventional treatment. Conventional treatment does not have a clue as to what causes brain cancer. They do not have a clue as to how to cure it. We are no closer to a cure for cancer than we were in the 1960s when Richard Nixon started the war on cancer. It is a gigantic medical failure. So much so that the conventional medical people have stopped even considering the word cure. They moved the goalposts. And now it's a 5-year survivorship. Oh, that's the gold standard of a successful cancer treatment. 5-year survivalship, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we want to do it. That's how we roll. That's right. If you are diagnosed with cancer and you die 5 years and 1 day after you were diagnosed with cancer and engaged in conventional medical treatment for cancer, and then you died from that cancer, your treatment goes into the record books as a successful cancer treatment, and there ought to be a law. The question that needs to be asked in the case of this young woman, 29 years of age, dead because her doctors were incompetent, dead because her doctors dropped the ball, dead because her doctors were closed-minded, Machiavellian, monopolistic, allopathic physicians who were only able to think inside of the box inside of which they were trained. Meanwhile, new German medicine, you want your mind to explode? We've been trying to get practitioners of, is it New German Medicine or German New Medicine? I forget. Do a Google search for both. This particular interpretation of cancer and the treatment thereof. It'll blow your mind. Meanwhile, alternative practitioners all around the world are in fact getting traction with cancer and with all other chronic diseases. You've heard it here on this radio program. You hear testimonials practically every day now from people who've had all kinds of crazy crap that the MDs had no idea what to do, just normal stuff. Well, high blood pressure, high blood sugar. You had high blood pressure for 25 years, then it goes away in 3 weeks, for goodness sakes. You hear all kinds of testimonials all of the time on this radio program, and we are just the tip of the iceberg. There are thousands of people all around the world who are experiencing recovery, cures of chronic health conditions with non-contemporary therapeutics, and yet these are not investigated because conventional American medicine does not care, is not concerned with a cure. It is not concerned with a cure. You need to understand this. You need to understand this. For goodness sakes, you wouldn't hire your high school swim coach to fix the plumbing in your house. They both work with water. A plumber works with water, or a swim coach works with water. Well, why don't you just hire the swim coach? Because they're the wrong dog for the hunt. Well, taking your ailing body into the office of an MD, if you are suffering with a chronic illness, is a fool's errand, and it will ultimately let you down, as it did for Brittany Maynard, who they let down so much she had to kill herself. She said, look, I'm not going to live like this. I'm not going to, go that way. I know what the ultimate end game here is. I know what the results of all of this brain cancer nonsense are, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to kill myself now. Thank you very much. You guys suck at your job. But instead of having that conversation, the media has the conversation about assisted suicide, not on the incompetency of conventional medicine in the face of cancer, which is where the conversation should be going. But it ain't going to go there. You know why? Because we don't have a free medical market. We have a medical market that has been completely co-opted, cornered, and catapulted into the ditch of failure by the MDs. This is not an anti-MD rant. This is a let's get practical rant. For goodness sakes, back in the early days of the Republic, there was a political party called the Whigs, W-H-I-G-S, and the Whigs were so bad, they were so unbelievably ineffective at what they did, and their point of view was so unbelievably skewed from normal reality that their party doesn't even exist anymore. They were voted out. They're voted out. They don't exist. It's only a matter of time until the same thing happens to the MDs. It is only a matter of time because the system is collapsing under its own weight. The system is collapsing under its own weight. What's the most expensive type of medicine? It is, in fact, the one that does not work. MD-directed medicine. Your medical doctor is not trained in medicine. They're trained in allopathic reductionism. And allopathic reductionism is an old-fashioned, outdated, ineffective, dangerous, expensive philosophy of not healing, philosophy of disease management. And yet you have been socialized to believe that Dr. Oz, because he has an MD after his name, and every other MD in the world holds the secret decoder ring to all things medical. And if you have a medical question, if you have a medical concern, if you have a medical condition, you must lean on the MD. Because everybody else is just, they're alternative doctors. They do alternative medicine. They do that back of the bus. Not really scientific, not really medicine. It's quackery. That's what, shh, don't say that word out loud. It's quackery. Shh, don't say that word out loud. That's what it is. Substandard, dangerous treatment. Meanwhile, the leading cause of death in the United States, MD-directed medicine. The leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States, MD-directed medicine. And while we've let the MDs drive the bus of medicine, everybody's going to hell in a handbasket. The only people selling snake oil in this country have MD after their name. And ladies and gentlemen, this is, I love the MDs I love military field surgeons. I love those guys. I love surgeons. I love trauma doctors, except when they're addicted to street drugs, alcohol, or prescription medication, as Harvard University says over 50% of them are. But that's their thing. That's their wheelhouse. That's their strength. Surgery, trauma care. a handful of infectious diseases. In a perfect world, it would be illegal for an MD to practice anything other than trauma and surgery care. And that's it. That's all they would be allowed to do. We don't let chiropractors do open heart surgery. Well, we shouldn't let MDs treat chronic disease. We shouldn't let MDs treat cancer because they suck at it. But because they monopolize the marketplace, they can do whatever the hell they want. And because they're a self-policing organization, they can kill you and get away with it. They can bankrupt you and get away with it. They can harm you and get away with it. This is a problem. And this is why this radio show is so important. This is why the knowledge base that we bring to the table is so vitally important. We are out to change the world. And I am not exaggerating. For goodness sake, your medical doctor doesn't even know, right, how to cure heartburn. You know, I wonder how bad that is. Antacid sales, $10 billion a year, 100 million people a month. 100 million people a month are treated for heartburn. And the heartburn from the MD's point of view is caused by stomach acid. Well, that's like saying tornadoes are caused by sunlight. Well, it's kind of a dodge, don't you think? Well, you know, sunlight creates rain, clouds create tornadoes, so sunlight creates tornadoes. Well, I don't think so. If stomach acid caused heartburn, then everybody with a stomach would have heartburn. The MDs have got it backwards. Heartburn is not caused by too much stomach acid, it's caused by not enough. But when we listen to them, 100 million people a year take, is that a year, a month? 100 million people a month. 100 million people a month take antacids here in the United States. 100 million people a month. Follow the lead of the MD into the Machiavellian world of symptom suppression and disease management. It's better, don't you think, to attempt to cure? I mean, isn't that a more rational approach? You're darn right it is. And that's what you will find here today and every day. I am Dr. Glidden. Stick around. Fools, ladies and gentlemen, and it is thinking slowly, and it's not just in the United States. In Canada, it's even worse because it's socialized medicine up there. You get no choice. The good thing about socialized medicine is the medical doctors can't run up the bill like they do here in the United States. They'll just do one CT scan instead of 3. I've actually had teenage boys, patients, come to my office reporting that they went to the emergency room after they fell off of their skateboard and they gave them 3 CT scans that they had. 3, not just 1, but 3. By the way, it was after the 15th of the month. You know what that means? Well, they've got quotas to fill. And because it's a self-policing, self-regulating industry, and because they have duped you, me, and everybody else, well, not me, not Longevity Nation, because they have duped most people in the world into believing that they are the high priests of medicine. And it's their way or, you know, the death way. They get away with it. They don't pad the bill in socialized medical countries. But what happens is they're spending, I think, $50 billion a day to $50 million a day in the province of Alberta to prop up the healthcare system. I mean, how long do you think that's going to be sustainable? You're going to have to find a lot more oil and gas in the ground, boys and girls, in order for that model to be sustainable. Fire your flippin' medical doctor now. Fire your medical doctor now. They do not know what's best for you when it comes to chronic disease. Want me to prove it? Let's go to the phones and see if anybody's calling in with a success story. Let's go to Lisa in Indiana and see what she has to say. Hey, Lisa, thanks for the phone call. You are live.
Spending, I think,
Lisa.
$50 a day.
Come in,
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes, hey, Dr. Glidden.
Hey, Lisa, how are you? Thanks for calling up.
I'm good. How are you?
Well, God willing, I'll get better. I appreciate your phone call. Thanks so much. Tell the listening audience your story, please.
Okay, I called in earlier and left a message, and Brenda had called me back because I had a question about some longevity products, and I was telling her about my daughter Mariah, and she said I should call in the show and let you know how she's doing. When we met in Fort Wayne in September at the Jamboree, I spoke with you and Wallach, and you had told me to put her on several different of the longevity products. She's currently on the Healthy Brain and Start Pack. She's currently taking the De-Stress, the Smart FX, and the Selenium. and she has not had a seizure since October 18th.
Oh, okay. Whoa. So back up. So how old is this child?
She's 17.
17. And how long has she been having seizures before you met me?
Before I met you, she's been having seizures since she was 9 months old.
9 months old?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
She's failed.
All right, so on average, hold on, we'll get there. On average, how many seizures a day would she be having?
She wouldn't have them daily. It was very sporadic. She may have 1 a month, 2 a month, 3 a month, or she may go 3 or 4 months and not have any. But when she did have them, they were very long, 20 to 30 minutes long.
Yeah, that's a big bad voodoo daddy. How many prescription medications had she been taking?
She's currently on 3 right now.
Okay, so over the course of her life, they've given her probably many different prescription medications, right?
She's been on 17 different seizure medications.
17 different seizure medications since she was 9 months old, and now she's a teenager?
Yes.
All right, so how many months ago did you start her on the medical nutrition protocol?
She's been on it for 2 months.
2 months, 8 weeks. And what's happened to her seizure activity in the last 8 weeks?
She's had 0.
And how normal is it for her to go 8 weeks with 0 seizures?
Not really normal. But since she's been on the product, she's been doing a lot better.
Yeah. So 0 seizure activity in 8 weeks, which is unusual for her, and also other things in her body mind have brightened up and improved. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so give me an example of a couple of things that have gotten better.
Well, she's more bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. She doesn't have the dark circles under her eyes quite as bad as she used to. We actually met her new neurologist last Thursday, and she knows who you are. Her name is Dr. Lisa McGuire through the Peyton Manning Children's Hospital in Indianapolis.
I doubt very much that she knows who I am because I've never heard of her.
Well, she said she knew you because I asked her. And I asked her what she thought of a holistic approach, and she said she was all for it. And I took all the products with me, showed them to her, and she thought they were all great. She said to keep doing what I'm doing, and I told her that if we could go 6 months, I would like to start tapering one of her seizure medications, which is the Keppra. She's on 3,000 milligrams of Keppra per day.
Hold that thought, Lisa. We're up against a hard break. I'll bring you back when we come back. Do you ask yourself this question, what would Batman do? And then do that. It's my recommendation. Do what Batman would do. Let's go back to the phones here and finish up with our friend from Indiana, Lisa. Okay, so you've hooked her up with an MD who's an advocate of holistic medicine and who didn't have any training, any experience, any clinical training in medical nutrition. She looked at the nutritional supplements and gave you an A-OK on them, and that's tantamount to clinically lying. She should have said, look, I've had no training. I don't have any experience with this stuff. I obviously have some respect for it because I'm talking to you, but I can't give you a recommendation up or down as to whether this stuff is good or bad because it's not inside my wheelhouse. That's what she should have said, but she did not say that. And, that's a problem because, and this is the problem with the MDs, and I really have to beat this into people's heads because they're just so full of themselves. I mean, you wouldn't go to an MD for advice about, how to ride a horse. You wouldn't go to an MD for advice about how to help your pig deliver a litter of little piglets because it's not their thing, but they'd probably give you advice about it. But you see, we go to the MDs for everything. Now, look, I'm glad that you found somebody who is not antagonistic towards what we do. I'm really glad, and you're really lucky, and that's going to serve you well moving forward because we don't have a perfect world, and the only medicine that's practiced in your hospital, the only medicine that your insurance pays for, the only medicine that you have access to is MD-directed medicine, and your kid's in the weeds. And your kid is going to need their help to get out of the weeds. So you're in a good spot here. But, we need to keep it all in perspective. You really should think twice about just the intellectual integrity of any medical professional who's giving you advice, as if they're an expert on stuff that they don't have any clinical training in whatsoever, and yet it happens all the time. So the end game here, Lisa, is to get your child off of the Keppra next and then keep your fingers crossed and see what happens, right?
Exactly, because she's on 3 different types of seizure medicine now.
Yeah.
And the moods, just the side effects are just horrible.
I know.
I'm just ready to keep moving forward with this, and hopefully the product continues to work, and we'll have good results.
Well, you're awesome, really. And, we just have to kind of keep everything in perspective, and hope is irrelevant. What is relevant is actionable knowledge, right, and understanding, clinical understanding. So whenever anybody with any chronic health condition gets on board with a medical nutrition program and inside of 8 weeks experiences noticeable and measurable positive change in 2 or 3 different areas of their body mind, that is an awesome first step. And that bodes very well for the future outcomes here. I mean, it just makes sense, right? I mean, sometimes the tomato doesn't grow no matter how much fertilizer and water and sunlight you give it. The plant just doesn't grow because it's, a funky little plant. But when it does grow, when it does respond in the first couple of weeks, then that's always a good sign for future, improvement. So my advice to you, which I don't even have to give you because I know that you're going to do this whether I tell you to or not, just maintain the discipline, baby. Just keep dialing it in because, remember, healing is a process. It's not an event. And the sooner that she gets off of these meds, the better. And also, just for another educational arrow in your quiver here, the Keppra and the other anti-seizure medications are not designed to cure the condition. They're not.
Right. They just treat the
symptoms.
The disease symptoms.
Yeah,
right.
It's like painting over the mold. Right. And another thing that people don't understand, and it boggles my mind why MDs don't understand this. And really, they're like, little rats in a maze following each other around, and they just do what the other rat does, and it's nuts.
Right.
But any pharmacist will tell you this. Pharmacists know this. Why don't MDs know this? I don't know. But the deal is, when you take a nutritional supplement into your body, your prescription medicine into your body. When you take a prescription medicine into your body, it works by upregulating your biochemistry, by messing and controlling and doing things to your biochemistry. It's kind of like stepping on the gas, shifting the car into gear and stepping on the gas. Well, when you do that, guess what happens to the biochemistry? It burns through nutrients. It burns through nutrients. So the longer that you're on any type of a medication, the less effective it is in its action. And then instead of just giving the body the vitamins and the minerals that the medication needs in order to work the way it did in the first couple of weeks of its delivery, the MDs just don't even see that. They miss it completely. And so they increase the dose, and then add a second drug, and then a third drug, and then increase those doses. And then the kid's a little freaking zombie.
That's right. That's exactly what's happened.
That's exactly what's happened. And it's medical madness. I mean, it's not – pharmacists know this. Why doesn't that translate into the clinical sphere? Because it's a gigantic train wreck. That's why the sooner you get this kid out of their hands, the better off you're going to be.
Because, the doctors want that gigantic bank account.
Well, that's one reason. That's right. And the other reason is, then it's true, because there is a profit motive here for sure. But the other reason is that they're just intellectually cowardly, and they're not trained to think outside of the box. And if they do think outside of the box, they're going to lose their license. If they lose their license, then their paycheck really is going to go away. And that's a bigger problem here. We don't talk about that enough. But nonetheless, it's a lion's den. And the sooner you get your child out of it, the better. Tell you what, you've taken gigantic steps towards that goal. Keep calling me back, Lisa, every month or so with a progress report. Really, I'm gonna look forward to that. I'm gonna keep this one on my radar big time. I appreciate you very much.
Okay, and I appreciate you very much, Dr. Glidden.
All right, Lisa, keep up the good work there in Indiana, because you are the last best hope your friends, family members, and church members have to live normal, healthy, and dare I say it out loud, wealthy lives. Everybody is sick, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody is sick and suffering, and it's worse now than it ever was. I'm in my mid-50s now. I didn't know anybody when I was a kid that was autistic or that had Alzheimer's. I didn't know anybody. Now every time you turn around, Car Talk, Ray Magliozzi. Is that his name? Magliozzi? Don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Crick and Crack, the Taffet Brothers, right? Remember those guys from Car Talk Radio? A really great show if you like automobiles. It was on public radio out of Boston. It aired every weekend for, I think, 3 hours. And I think they did something like, I don't know how many shows they did. Thousands of shows over the course of 30 years. People would call in with car trouble, and they would, give them advice. In a humorous way. I mean, it was really, really one of my favorite shows, one of my favorite radio shows. It was called Car Talk. I'm going to pull it up right now, so I'm not going to give you Tom Magliozzi, popular co-host of NPR's Car Talk, dies at 77 years of age. 77 years of age from complications of Alzheimer's disease. Tom and his brother Ray became famous as Click and Clack, the Taffet Brothers, on the weekly NPR show called Car Talk. They bantered, told jokes, laughed, and sometimes even gave pretty good advice to listeners who called in with their car troubles. They had an interesting history, these two guys. They both were graduates of MIT, both engineers from MIT, and then they gave it up to work on cars. And they had a very successful little garage, in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And then somehow they knew somebody at Boston Public Radio, and they parlayed this into a really great radio show. I mean, it was a really fun, great radio program. And, like they just said, often they really gave good advice about automobiles, too. It was just a really, really good, well-rounded radio show. And now he's dead at 77 years of age. He didn't even make the mean curve in the United States, which is now 81.47 years, I think. Average age of death in the United States, 81 years of age. He didn't even make it to that. And, gee, I wonder what someone with a last name Magliozzi had to eat over the course of his life. You think he liked olive oil? You think he ate a lot of olive oil? What do you think? You think an Italian guy from Boston would eat a lot of olive oil? You think an Italian guy living in Boston would eat a lot of Italian bread? You think? I mean, what do you think? You think that that's a possibility? You think that an Italian guy from Boston would eat lots of sausages made with nitrates? You think that over the course of his life they had sausages on a regular basis? You think? What do you think? You think they did? Quite frankly, probably the reason that he lived to be as old as he did, before he died from the complications of Alzheimer's, which is fancy schmancy decoder ring talk for incompetency of the medical professional. He died of medical incompetence, for goodness sake. You think he was on a statin drug? You think his doctor told him 20 years ago, Ray, Tom, you got to get on board with this statin stuff. It's the best stuff ever. It's the cutting edge of pharmaceutical medicine. You're an MIT guy. You're a scientist. You know what to do. Take the statin drug, baby. Now, I don't know if he was on a statin drug, but there is a direct relationship between statin drugs and Alzheimer's disease. And statin drugs are either the first or the second most prescribed drugs in the world, depending on how you crunch the numbers. So 5 will get you 10 that he was taking a statin drug. 5 will get you 10 that he was eating Italian white bread all of the time, loaded with gluten. What do you think about pasta? You think an Italian guy ate pasta? What do you think? How often do you think he ate pasta? What's pasta made from? Wheat. What's wheat? What's the problem with wheat? Gluten. Think he had olive oil? Well, yeah, probably did. Lots and lots and lots of olive oil. So the more olive oil he consumes, the more free radicals are in his blood, the more chronic inflammation is in his body, the less nutrients his body has to fight the inflammation because he's eating pasta and Italian bread all of the time. Honestly, probably the only thing that kept him alive as long as he did was red wine. Now, I have no idea if he drank red wine, but I'm going to guess that an Italian guy from Boston would, in fact, drink red wine. And so we go. A graduate of MIT, very successful, I don't know how much money the guy had, but I'm assuming that he wasn't, poor. had access to the best medical minds in the flippin' world, and he dies from a physician-created disease, Alzheimer's. And if you look at the genesis, the evolution, the rate of Alzheimer's disease, it parallels with almost 100% accuracy the dissemination, the manufacture, the invention and the manufacture and the dissemination of cholesterol-lowering statin drugs. Over 90% of the part of the brain that's affected by Alzheimer's disease is made from cholesterol. So when you drive cholesterol into the ditch because your MD told you to take a statin drug, your brain dries up and you get Alzheimer's. Oh, by the way, your sex hormones dry up too. So if you're a man, all of a sudden you need Viagra. And if you're a woman, you have menopausal symptoms for 5 years instead of 5 months like your grandparents did. Now all of a sudden you need hormone supplementation, and men need Viagra, and who knows what's next. It's medical madness brought to you by Machiavellian, monopolistic MDs who don't give a crap about how to heal your condition, and who do not have enough intellectual integrity or social responsibility to stand up in the town square and say, you know what, we have failed. Give the naturopaths a chance. Back, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Peter Glidden. I am your steadfast advocate for health. Welcome to my radio program, The Dr. Glidden Show. Watch the live stream, the drgliddenshow.tv. In the least of all, what I'm trying to say is visit my website, please. drgliddен.com, drglidden.com. And if you haven't done so, become an insider, because I have a subscription service on my website, $25 a month. You got to be freaking kidding me. Loaded, chock full of nuts, man. I've got hundreds of hours of archived health webinars. I've got all kinds of stuff as available to you as a subscriber. Go to my website, become an insider right now, $25. And if you do go to my website and become an insider right now for $25, you'll have access to tonight's worldwide webinar, live chat with Dr. Glidden, yours truly. I'm in a chat room. People all around the world are in the chat room where they're chatting amongst themselves, getting questions answered among themselves, and they ask me specific questions, which I answer. It's one giant educational fest, the intention of which is to dramatically shorten the learning curve here and to bring people into a state of health. Because as God is my witness, people are suffering needlessly for decades, needlessly, just because they don't know that we exist. They don't even know how to pronounce naturopath, let alone know what it is. And they've been brainwashed into thinking that healing is a complicated, sophisticated process that can only be handled by an MD in a multi-million-dollar, high-tech, super expensive facility. Baloney. Surgery is complicated. Healing the body is easy. And the stuff that we can accomplish with medical nutrition could balance the budget of the United States in 1 year. Quite frankly, we could go into, have an excess. What's the word called? Clinton did that to us. We had a surplus, a budget surplus, right? If everybody in the United States followed my advice and Dr. Wallach's advice about their health, in 1 year we'd have an economic surplus because we wouldn't be spending billions of dollars needlessly on stupid medications that don't work. And I'm all for medications that work. I'm not against medication, by the way. A lot of people have that misconception. Oh, those naturopaths, they're against medication. No, we're not. They're advocates of natural medicine. You don't even know what the heck that means. We can prescribe drugs. Did you know that naturopathic physicians can prescribe drugs? Did you know that? Did you know that we can perform minor surgery? Did you know that? It's not the drug, it's how it's used. It's not the gun, it's how it's used. You know, I've had a shotgun for, I don't know, however many years, a long time, 40 years I've had a shotgun. Not once did that shotgun ever jump out of the gun cabinet and fire itself. Not once. Not once did that ever happen. I'm still waiting for that to happen. Not once did that ever happen. It's not the gun, it's how it's used. It's not the drug, it's how it's used. The way that MDs are trained to use prescription medications is not to cure the condition. It's to manage the symptoms. It's exactly like painting over the mold in the basement. It's a stopgap, a temporary solution at best, which makes the situation moving forward worse, which makes you have to spend more money for less effective treatments, and then you get sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker, and then it's more and more of an economic burden on you and the society. The pharmaceutical companies make out quite well. Doctors make out quite well. Insurance companies make out quite well because they fear-monger you into buying their products. Oh, you must have the medical insurance in case you get sick. You can go bankrupt. They use the statistics against you. It's an accurate statistic. The leading cause of bankruptcy is medical bills. Why is that? Because the therapy doesn't work. It's not because of, if people had more money, they would get a cure. No. It's that people didn't have medical insurance, and so they went in and the doctor convinced them of getting the unsuccessful treatment. They got on board with the unsuccessful treatment. It was unsuccessful, and they went bankrupt. Well, if they'd had medical insurance, the treatment would have been unsuccessful, and they wouldn't have gone bankrupt, so let's do that. It's nuts. It is 100% inside out, upside down. The medical system does not need to be upregulated, managed, tweaked, or massaged. It needs to be abandoned, ladies and gentlemen. It does not work. Fire your medical doctor today. And get on board with science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition and get your health back. Hour 2 coming up. Stick around.